What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to talk about the Cold Steel AD15 Lite. These have been recently released from the new Cold Steel, and want to go ahead and compare this one to the original OG, as I'll call it. But as just we'll go over with a quick overview of this initially. This is an Andrew Demko design knife. Of course, it is the Cold Steel production version, the current one of the custom knives by Andrew Demko. Utilizes the scorpion lock and provides for great fidgetiness. Has a 3.6-inch blade made of AUS 10A steel, which is definitely, don't confuse that with AUS 8 or 8A. It is definitely an upgraded steel in terms of usability. I think it comes from Japan. Most of those AUS ones do. The really unique thing about this blade is the scorpion lock. We'll go ahead and disengage that. It basically relies on a back spring here, and this is built in with a very strong spring, and it basically is floating out here, and it provides detent tension by basically resting against the knife. The back of the tang here, there's just a little loop. So as this rotates out, you'll see that spring pop up, rolls over the back of that tang. It's going to drop with that pin right there, right into this notch. And I have actually seen this particular mechanism before. This is a 2010 model of the, this is the Untitled 2 that I have, and it uses very similar. This is actually Glenn Klecker's design. I'm not saying that these are a copy or whatever, but it's similar. I call it kind of a back notch, where it basically has a notch right there, and provides the detent in the same way. As that notch rolls forward back there, you're going to see this pin right here. Basically click right into that back notch. This particular one just uses basically an integral frame to provide that, and then you just basically press on that spring to release that tension and let it go back. So again, this is the Untitled 2, which like I said, that's a 10-year-old thing, but this is a little bit different item. We'll go ahead and continue on here. So this is a hard use knife, you know, just like many of the Cold Steels. So we're going to go ahead and throw the glove test at it real quick. Has a demonstration. Use some fairly burly leather gloves here. Definitely deploys okay and returns okay. So yeah, this is going to be a really good one if you know, in terms of hard use environment where you're going to actually be using gloves to deploy and then return that thing. So that definitely passes the glove test for a hard use knife, and give that an A on there. As far as the pros and cons, we're going to go ahead and talk about this in the context of the original. Again, I'm calling it the OG, Olive Drab Original Gangsta. And so let's jump right into this. In terms of the pros, or actually we'll just do some comparisons, and then we'll talk about the pros and cons as far as I see them. So as far as weight, I'm going to go ahead and weigh these. Let me turn off the light here. And the light version, it did feel a little bit lighter. This particular one weighs 6.1, 6.2, measured again for good measure, 6.1 on there. And the original 6.4, 6.4. So it is definitely clearly 0.3 ounces heavier. And I could tell that. Definitely when I picked this up, I actually thought it felt thicker, or the original, and the new one was actually thinner. And that's not the case. They actually measure 0.58 across. So in terms of the thickness, in terms of the blade and everything on these, they are essentially identical. And my original plan was actually because I wanted a black one, but they cost a whole lot more. You know, so I thought, hey, maybe I'll go with this light one. Maybe it'll be a lot lighter too, and then I can swap blades. Well, you'll find out why I did not do that in the end. But in terms of the sizing and everything, the blade stock, everything is essentially identical for as far as that goes. So I could have done that. You know, in terms of the things that were common between them, they both had way too aggressive of jimping back here. The blades are the exact same length, you know. So it comes down to these few things we're going to talk about here. So again, the weight, the light's going to be in 0.3 ounces lighter. So it is in fact lighter, not only just in materials, but a little bit lighter in terms of weight. You know, by light materials, I assume they also mean like they're not going all out. It doesn't have the same steel. As far as the scales go, you have your original with the G10 here, but then of course you have your aluminum anodized spring back there, or lock face, I should say, and then you have the FRN on the new one. And in terms of a feel, of course, the G10 is going to definitely be more grippy, and you can feel that, and the other one is a little bit slicker. But in terms of like if it's going to slip out of your hands, oh, nice tear. These things have great gripping, and neither one is going to slip out of your hands. So some great texturing as far as that goes. And I think really more than anything is this FRN just provides a little bit lighter weight. But there is one more thing. Also, the fact that it is not quite as has as much friction. The pocket clip goes in a lot easier into your pants. And it would make sense simply because this FRN is a smoother scale, or smoother surface, if you will, than the G10. The G10 is almost like a sandpaper in a sense, but this one I found went in the pocket a lot better. So actually this one for me won in terms of on the scales, because like I said, for actual grip, you know, I actually, it was fine. And to get that so that it would just go into my pocket and I wouldn't have to send that down like on the original, that was a win for me. So far, I actually had the Lite winning 2 categories for myself. You know, technically, I guess this one could be better for grip, and maybe G10 is more, you know, can take more beating. I don't know. I've never beat up my knives that much that I've been able to tell. As far as the steel goes, obviously, this is a no-brainer. Your original has the S35 VN steel. See if I can get that. You know, it's really tough, obviously, with these satin blades. And then the AUS 10A on the Lite. So as far as this one, it's a no-brainer. The S35 VN steel is great. Great steel for, you know, edge retention, and it sharpens up nicely. The AUS 10A, I don't have a ton of experience. I have the 80, I think it's like the Pro Lite or whatever, and that one's made in 10A. Haven't had any problems with that, but I haven't used it a ton. So for me, the steel is going to go to the original on this one. As far as the price of your original is $215 in current prices, and then the price of the AD15 Lite is $136. So certainly on price, if money's what you're looking to save, you know, you're looking to pay $85 or so there. You know, the price, obviously the Lite's going to come in at a much more favorable price for most people. So that's going to generally be a win for the Lite edition. As far as the last thing was really the fit and finish. Is, you know, could I detect something that basically made this one, you know, unacceptable for me? And the answer is actually I did. We're going to talk about that. Well, actually, let me talk about the less severe thing, and is that I did find that the grind on these blades was not symmetrical on the Lite edition here, but it was symmetrical on the original, the OD. So I think, I don't know, just their attention to it, I don't know what it was, but this one definitely, the edge bevel is fully symmetrical, and the Lite is not. It's not a big deal. They were both equally sharp. Could definitely, you know, slice through an arm if you needed, or whatever you needed it for. They're both very fidgety in terms of, you know, that sort of thing. But the last thing I'm going to show is, and this thing really, unfortunately, it's what killed my plan to swap out the blade on these and give myself a lighter knife with the S35. But on this original one, the lockback here is, everything's nice and smooth. It peels off a little bit of my skin here, but there's nothing at all that's sharp about this in terms of handling it, especially when you think about you're unlocking this. A lot of times, one method to unlock this is you can actually just separate this by pulling that apart like that. And there's no problems with this OD one, but with this one, they did a really, I consider it a very poor job. And I don't think it was a one-off thing. I don't know. I mean, this is the only blade that I have of this, but this surface right here, you can just see that just absolutely is very, very sharp back here. And it just peels off skin. It is not comfortable. And so when you're doing the lock method like that, it really cuts in, and you can see it, like I said, you can just see how it picks up my skin there. And so they did not I won't say chamfer, but they didn't knock this down at all. And so it's going to basically be on me to knock it down with a ceramic rod. And with that, I might lose some of the anodizing, and I'll have some exposed aluminum there. So for me, that was really, I was super bummed about that they missed that one hard. And so for me, that made this one a deal breaker. It's not that it's not a recommendable knife. It is. It's just one of those where, you know, depending on, you know, your mileage may vary. And I am very interested in anybody else who has an AD15 Lite, if they have found the same thing, that theirs is extremely sharp. And mine was just a one-off, or if that was kind of a systemic problem that they did not knock this down at all, any of this these steps here on the lock. So for me, that was kind of a deal breaker, and really made this one almost a no-brainer to wear the OG one for me. And yeah, I like I said, I'm probably going to end up just knocking that down with a little file. You know, hope you enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. But for this one, the winner for me is the OG in the AD15 line. Take care now.